Delores, Darth Maul, Michael Jordan. 3 killers in their respective occupations. And we're discussing them on this action-packed episode of Was It Good? I'm your host, Ravi, and I'm joined by my 2 brothers, Christian and Arjuna. Today, we're talking about Westworld, Star Wars The Clone Wars, and The Last Dance. Real quick, who at this table is who among our 3 characters we just mentioned? I call Delores because I am blonde now. What?
Darth Maul. I'm Darth Maul because I'm bald.
Yes. You're just thank you for listening to our viewers.
Wait, does that mean I'm Michael Jordan? I'm the GOAT?
Are you just allowed Arjuna to be the GOAT?
You are a gambling addict who happen to be good at basketball.
Okay.
Maybe
good
the best
at
of all time.
basketball.
You are the best of all time. You are the boat.
Is Michael Jordan? I mean, so for our regular listeners, we are trying. Obviously, we're not trying. We are doing something a little bit different here. We're talking about a sports documentary, probably like one of the greatest sports documentaries ever. Prior to the current events, it was one of the most anticipated documentaries ever. Because of current events,
It is.
the anticipation made it even more to the point where it's like the most anticipated sports documentary, I think, to date. And we got to see it.
Real quick, it actually broke records, I think. I believe it is the highest rated ESPN live programming ever.
Wait, ever?
Original live
Oh,
programming.
not like a game.
Not
Okay.
games, yeah. But
That's
it's
amazing.
It's by far the highest, so.
Well,
I mean,
you know,
thank you,
ESPN, what's the
quarantine.
last good thing they produced?
Well, it's not just that,
30s,
because
30s.
you never. Hey, real quick, you never want to like diss on a company that may be interested in one of us at this table.
I diss all the companies,
Wait, what?
first of all, because they all passed me up.
Oh my God. Not bitter at all.
But before we get into the Michael B. Jordan stuff,
Michael
Jordan.
yes, I knew I was going to do that at least once. That's why I poured this. So you take a drink every time I fuck up and say Michael B. Jordan instead of Michael Jordan.
Oh,
but,
you do
But
that.
you're the only one that's doing the game.
No, this is for the listeners.
No.
Added engagement value, listeners. Drinking game.
Yeah.
What drink should they make?
I would make a Manhattan. It is 3-to-1 ratio of whiskey to sweet vermouth, 2 dashes of bitters. Stir that over ice. Use a strainer. Pour that over. That's just a dash. And I'm Maddie Madison. Nope. Okay. We'll just keep going here. So Westworld.
Yes, Westworld.
Westworld, the place where fake people exist.
Westworld, where we never spend any time in Westworld.
Yes, we just finished episode 5? 6.
Oh, fucking hell.
Is it 6 or is
Yes.
it 5?
No,
No,
it's episode
I
6.
believe him.
We got 2 episodes left.
That's it. 2 episodes left. Episode 6. Christian, you seemed like you, as per normal, did not care. Would you? Is there a reason?
So it's man, I feel like I beat this horse to death every single week. So I'm gonna try a slightly different strategy.
Ooh, I like this.
This episode I was extremely frustrated by for most of the same reasons. Real quick, I'm only gonna bring up one example instead of all of the examples. For instance, the first time we see William, the man in black, he's in the mental institute with all the other patients. Literally every line by the doctor, the patients, and himself is a bunch of cliche bullshit. There was not one singular defining line that you could literally have taken that from any other show, right? There was nothing in there. In fact, the whole scene was completely unnecessary and slowed it down. Anyway, so that was my biggest gripe with the episode. But we come back to William later.
Defoe?
No, not William Dafoe. Oh, that'd be an interesting choice to play that character. And they did some interesting things, and I was I think for the first time, not for the first time, but this was the highlight of the season for me, was what happened with William in this episode.
And are we talking specifically where William is talking? He's in the VR headset. He's going through therapy.
AR.
Well, it's not AR. It's VR.
But they have said it's AR. So I know exactly what you mean.
Right.
We should actually
talk about this
that,
because
yeah.
it goes back to like the hallucination. Let's talk this right now. So they say it's AR therapy. For our listeners and those watching, AR is augmented reality. That's where there is augmented or virtual elements added on top of actual reality. And what that means is, for example, you would look through a headset or glasses, or not a headset, excuse me, like glasses or like your phone, and there would be a digital object on like a table. That's like augmented reality, right? What we saw with the Man in Black or William, we were seeing full-blown virtual or real-life setups where he's sitting and he's talking to himself in various stages.
Yeah.
Man in Black, Tuxedo. So before he goes to Westworld,
William.
William, him as a child, where
Boy.
something traumatic as a kid had happened.
Yeah.
So
But is it though? Because like, could it be he's in the same room where that's happening? So it's still kind of AR, or is it established that when he puts the goggles on, he's in a totally different place than?
It is established because at the end of the episode, after he's killed all of his respective selves, Bernard pulls the glasses off, and he's not in the same room. He's in the white padded cell. So
and his
whole-
arms are
Yeah.
he's in a kind of a crazy suit,
Oh, we
and he's
call
on the
that, yeah.
ground, like
Straight
falling
jacket.
over as if he fell out of the chair.
Yeah.
So I don't
And that, by the way, was the best part of the episode.
I don't know why they would go and call it AR therapy unless it's supposed to. My initial thinking is like his character at this point, he's no longer reliable. He's having a clear psychotic break.
He's actually never been reliable, but I know. What
Yeah,
you mean.
but like
Yeah.
even more so,
Yeah.
he's having like a psychotic break. We don't know. We know this insane secret about him in the future that I don't know if he probably doesn't know that, but like he's super unreliable. So it's kind of weird that like they would say AR to VR, or it could just be a simple like they fucked up, which would be kind of funny. But real quick, speaking about the Man in Black, you didn't like everything but the
Else.
part. You didn't like the part with him in this episode. You liked everything. You didn't like everything. You only liked the part where he's like murdering himself. Correct?
That part, and then also when the curtain is pulled back and Bernard and Stubbs are standing there. That was great.
So
The rest of it, it wasn't that it was bad.
Right.
It was just more of the same, which has really, disappointed.
So Variety reported on this. They put out the article today. The actor that plays the Man in Black, Ed Harris, actually said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something along the lines of like, "Yeah, I'm not really thrilled with what's happened with my character either, but it is what it is. That's my own issue I have to deal with."
Wow.
And the thing that
Damn.
the thing he
that
calls-
means he dies at the end of the season.
Yeah,
The
no,
contract is done.
No, the thing that he didn't like is the fact that our Man in Black character, as he's murdering himself, he says this one interesting line, which he said, "I'm the good guy,"
Yeah.
and that's the part that Ed Harris is not cool with.
Ed Helms.
Ed Helms.
Can you imagine? What a casting choice. Oh, man. So he was not happy
He's not happy with the change and the sudden shift in this character.
that he now thinks he's a good guy.
Well, I'm going to go back to what I said a couple weeks ago. Like,
It's all a dream.
it should have been his last appearance a couple weeks ago. The
Yeah.
character arc is done, and this definitely feels, force-fed into still keeping him relevant in the current plot.
And I have a theory about that.
Yes.
Because I got strong Avenger Assembles vibes from this episode.
Yes.
I got strong vibes that Bernard is going to end up being sort of a Nick Fury, and he's already collected the Man in Black, William. We've just seen, obviously Maeve is clearly taken a step against Delores, and also Charlotte Hale, who fully committed to her family, her fake family, and they just died in a fire explosion.
Whoa! Spoilers.
Yes, spoilers. I ruined it for you. Why are you here?
You're talking about Delores, correct? Delores,
Yes,
the
yes.
Terminator.
Halores.
Halores.
Hilarious.
Delores.
Yeah. So she's now like burnt like a crisp. She looks like Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, yeah.
After he tried it when
Hey,
Obi-Wan
hey,
had
hey,
the high ground.
Hey, you were supposed to save that transition for when we transition into Clone Wars.
I'm
You
making that transition
fucked
now
up.
because we're done with Westworld, right?
No, I mean there's
There's still plenty to talk about here.
I mean,
But actually, I do like your theory about the
yeah, I
assembly.
don't know this a lot.
Maeve's character was in the simulation for most of this episode again, and she confronted a version of Delores. And there was a couple of lines that she said that it does feel like it's coming up to this very Avengers-esque team up, kind of face off where you're getting these different.
Are you happy about
alliances.
that?
I'll get to that in
Okay.
a minute.
Nice.
But
Good tease.
what I liked about that is, she said, if it was me, I would bring in other friends, hinting at that there is more than just Delores potentially behind this Delores army. also the one thing that might have slipped your guys' minds
Nothing slips my mind.
when we watched the episode. Sarek had 4 hosts being printed in that facility. One was Maeve.
One was Hector.
One was Hector, who was killed. And then there's 2 other ones that we didn't even get a look at. So there's a lot of theories as to who these other 2 could be. Who are the other 2 hosts that
I think it's
Sarek
obvious.
has decided to bring up?
It's very obvious because remember who else was in that simulation with Maeve that you just mentioned?
Lee Sizemore.
No, there's a version of Delores, like a damaged version
Sure.
of Delores. My theory would be he's made a copy or some kind of new Delores, right?
Okay.
Because, who is your biggest enemy?
Yourself?
Internally, yourself. Yeah.
So who's the 4th one then?
Steve Jobs.
No, it's obviously Delores again, because what's better than 5 Doloreses?
7 Doloreses.
As much as you're going to kill
5
some of
on
them.
one team, 2 on the other team. Because
I'm
math.
sorry. I'm sorry. But doesn't it just feel a little ridiculous at this point?
Oh my god.
I'm gonna create some. I'm gonna create some hosts. Now I'm gonna create some hosts, and we're all copies of each
Can
other.
we go back? Can we go back real quick? You're talking about a science fiction show.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Aren't you? Aren't you a little sick of it?
when are
Aren't
you
you
sick of
sick
the craziness? It's
It's
a
not-
fucking weird
It's
show.
not crazy. It's boring, and it just feels so
Christian.
I actually don't think it's that
boring.
Wait, real quick, Chris.
No.
Real quick.
I'm sorry.
I do think it's
we
interesting.
have new
Hold
new
on.
people to
become
think about.
rappy.
I'm just
Hold on.
like,
Hold on. Hold on.
You guys
Hold on.
swear.
God damn it!
This is an adult TV show that shouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, but they're treating it like a children's show. We're gonna have a team up. Oh, you know what's better than raising some stuff and we're running out of mysteries? We're just gonna do the same thing that we did at the beginning
You know
of the
what
show
is
by raising some
interesting? Well,
more
I want
clones.
to point out one thing
more
that is
hosts.
interesting. Christian, you're very vocal in your dislike for Westworld. I love it. You're normally
I
you're
don't.
normally no, because he's
like it.
he's normally the positive
Yeah.
paragon within this show. So
I've had too many.
I do like that he has come out, with a very strong stance. What is interesting though, talking to a lot of mutual friends of
Mhm.
Was It Good, the Jared Quays of
Mhm.
the world, even
The
some,
Beyoncés.
even some other people that
The
I know,
Beyoncés.
some other people, all of them like this new season. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people who like the new season
Yeah.
of Westworld. I do find it interesting
Yeah.
that Krishna, who normally I would say is positive and is up there with groupthink, is not up there.
Wow, thanks, buddy. Christian should be up there as being a sheep, and not just a sheep, but a mindless sheep because everything's good.
Well, you have to.
A lamb being led to the slaughter.
You can't say that you're like. There's only 2 groups really, or 3 groups, right? One that doesn't care, one likes it, one doesn't like
That's
it,
true.
right? So there's
Yeah.
no I wouldn't say it's group mentality.
No, he just means everyone we know.
Yeah, no,
I
no,
tend
no,
to go
no,
with
I
the-
get that. Yeah.
So
I
it
think
is
I
interesting.
do think out of your rant just now about they're treating it like a kid's show,
Yeah,
With the team
honestly, I'm like,
I-
wow.
real quick,
this is
Arjuna-
so obvious.
and I did this as well today. I poured myself a delicious bowl of cinnamon toast crunch,
So
Yeah.
good.
and I sat down
Uh-huh.
and I watched Star Wars: The Clone Wars,
Yeah,
season 7,
that is an actually-
episode.
Wait, we're not. We have to say if the episode was good or not.
Damn it! That was the perfect transition.
Yeah.
You jackass.
You're the
we've had
host.
2.
You forgot. You forgot to, tie this one up with a bow and move on.
Don't worry, Ravi. You can just pull a Delores and copy yourself, and replace yourself.
I just spilled beer on my face. Anyway, before we get into my great transition, backtracking here a little bit, I already know what Christian is going to say, so I don't really care. Arjuna, was Westworld season 3 episode 6 good?
I'm actually going to say yes. I did enjoy. Contrary to what Christian said, I actually enjoy. I enjoyed what the story is. I enjoyed that there's implications with the big cataclysmic event. I like that we saw it from the perspective of William. And yes, it is simplified storytelling. And yes, this is a very different show from Westworld season 1 and 2. But sometimes, sometimes it's nice to just have I'll give an example here. Our mom texted us yesterday, and she was like, "I don't know what's going on," and I just simply texted back very simply, "Sarek wants to destroy the hosts. Delores wants to destroy the humans," and that's the story. You have these 2 sides, and you're seeing who's going to fall on which side. And I think it's interesting because you have people kind of flipping back and forth. Like, is Delores now going to be on Sarek's side all of a sudden, even though he's the one that just killed her family? But is it because
he could potentially bring the family back?
Yeah, but so and then it's like with Maeve, it's like, well, Delores just killed Hector, so now is she going to be on the side of Sarek, but he wants hosts destroyed? See, I do think there's some interesting, I think there's some interesting story there. Is it the best executed? No, but I like it.
You see, Christian is like binding his time over here. We should pull a weird one. And instead of like you having to ask him, you just ask me, and then I just move on.
Oh, you might be disappointed.
Krishna, was the thing good?
Yeah, it actually was good. It was, but it was the best episode. So, like I said, the rest of the stuff it irritated me for the exact same reasons as the rest of the season, but that doesn't. The show, and I think I said this from the very beginning. The show isn't bad. It's well made. It's a beautiful show, right?
Cinematography alone.
The acting is great. The directing is great. It's really the story elements that driving me
Seems like
nuts.
it's the dialogue that's really been bothering me recently.
It's very robotic dialogue, and I understand they're robots, but for crying out loud, they're trying to be trying to play human.
Why don't you send a spec script in?
No, I wouldn't do well. But no, it was good, and also I really enjoyed the pulling back of the curtain with William. It was really well done. Just hearing the voices and seeing his face, he's just like, oh my god, like I got chills. I was like, ooh.
That was a really cool scene to see the different Williams, to get Jimmy Simpson to come back as a young William.
Yeah.
I
enjoyed
really
seeing
cool.
him. Yeah, I was like,
and also the jarring image of just Ed Harris bashing Jimmy Simpson's face in with a chair.
Yeah. Him killing the versions of himself. It was interesting. I understand why the actor Ed might not have liked it.
Yeah, it's kind of
weird. It kind of it's just like out of left field. Oh, now he's murdering them, and he thinks he's a good guy. But Ravi, was this episode of Westworld good?
No,
I knew you were gonna do that.
It to your points, like the lines, what was said. Was definitely robotic. The stuff with like the Man in Black was kind of like cool. You psyched us out and like hoo like Avengers team up, whatever. It didn't feel like an episode like last week's episode 5. We kept having to pause it, right, because of work and stuff.
Yeah.
This one we were like pretty much ran right through it, and even though we were like ran right through it, I was very like uninterested in what was going on. Like it was like. It didn't feel that interesting. It didn't feel that deep. It felt like not even like a character development episode. It felt more like we need our people to do things because
plot device.
We have not even that. We greenlit X amount of episodes and we have to deliver upon. That's what it felt like.
It felt more like that they're putting players into certain spaces so they can reach that end goal that they want.
But it felt forced. It felt forced.
Yeah,
super forced.
It wasn't. When you. It felt like an episode from a weekly, like when like take an Arrow show for example, right, where they got 7 days to work on an episode and they're making episodes, just like a month before they air. It felt like you're just planning the season as you're going instead of like planning the whole thing out beforehand. That's kind of what this episode felt like.
And then my other big point is Marshawn Lynch wasn't in this episode, and his birthday is this Wednesday, so this just feels mean.
Well, how do you know that?
I don't want to answer that. Moving on.
That's weird.
I may think Marshawn Lynch is the greatest NFL player to become professional pro actor.
Not O.J. Simpson.
Moving on.
He was in Airplane.
Don't care. Moving on. Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Season 7, Episode 9. The beginning of the literal end of the Clone Wars. An episode that puts us at the start,
and the Jedi.
Puts us about 2 hours, maybe. Let's just fudge the numbers. About 2 hours before the events of Episode 3, the movie where you sat in the theater
and cried,
and the music came on, and you saw these two fucking gigantic, or these two ships fly in and just start fucking blowing shit up. Thing that made me really realize, wow, George Lucas was right to wait to make Episode 1, 2, 3.
Oh my god! That it took two movies to get to that point.
It took 2 movies to get to that point.
I don't think we understood though that like there was waiting and technology and all that.
Yeah,
stuff
no, of course we dealt. I mean, as a kid, who the fuck?
We're just like,
understand
oh, cool, Star Wars.
But we are now presented truly the beginning of the end. We are at the point, everything that has been building up for the Clone Wars, we have found and come into contact with new Jedis. Shaak Ti, for example, who we've seen had cameos in episodes 1 and 2. We finally figure out kind of her fate. We see what happens to Plo-Katan.
No, not Plo-Katan.
I'm gonna say
Plo-Koon?
Plo-Katan.
Plo-Katan.
Plo-Katan. But we have a lot of different
Plo-Koon?
Jedi. Plo Koon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds
So there's a lot of Jedi in episode 3 that we get, unfortunately, to see murdered by Order 66. And the Clone Wars series gave those characters stories and arcs and all of that. And now they are all presented in their final moments. If you guys aren't depressed after every single episode, then you have figured out how to separate real life.
That's funny as fuck.
But anyway, let's talk about it. Arjuna, name some connections that you saw. You saw it today.
Well, I mean, the one that Christian pointed out, I mean, months before with Kanan showing up.
Yep.
He showed up in the little little pre thing, the explainer that goes into the episode. You saw him on the hologram, so that was cool. One that you pointed out, Ravi, was one of the members of Death Watch becomes the leader of Mandalore, who you see
Sax, that fucker.
who you see in Star Wars Rebels. So that was definitely pretty cool. And of course, you see you see Darth Maul himself at the very end of the episode, and I just thought the whole thing was beautiful. Like the whole, I'll say it. I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. I think this is the best episode of Clone Wars I've ever seen in my life. It felt like
My life.
It felt like a movie. It felt cinematic. It just felt the animation was better. The editing was better. You know what I mean? Everything was elevated to a level that we have seen a few times, I would say, in Clone Wars. But it felt cinematic, and I have to imagine that if we weren't going through what we were going through right now, this last arc would be released in theaters,
I think it will be.
and I will 100%.
I will
go
definitely go see this for sure. I think the craziest thing with this episode, and I want to do this, but I still want to wait until the arc is done, is go back. Like as soon as we saw this episode and we understood what we just saw, which is the last time that Ahsoka Tano talks to Anakin Skywalker, the last time Rex talks to Anakin Skywalker. We saw that happen after, when they see him run away. They believe in about a week or so he dies or is dead because of Order 66, which is insane. And it's what's interesting with this last arc is this will, similar to what Rogue One did with Episode 4 at the very beginning, and understanding what Leia is going through and what that ship is going through. It's similar to Episode 3. Episode 3 is forever going to be different once you watch this arc. And you watch that movie, because we've already seen the first part. When you start episode 3, now Anakin and Obi-Wan got into a piss match with Ahsoka about the rights and what the Jedi is supposed to be and all that crap. Which is still pretty, I didn't present it in an interesting way. It was actually very vulgar, and I apologize. But it's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it was there were definitely some emotional feelings in there,
What did you guys think of the amount of conflict between Ahsoka and Obi-Wan? You could definitely feel.
I feel like that's always
tension.
been there, right?
It's not that it's always been there, but Obi-Wan Kenobi is textbook Jedi Council, Jedi Order.
Paragon.
I disagree with that.
No, I would say in that
That's true.
I would say in that particular moment, he's
Satine,
100% he is going and flying immediately back to Coruscant for the Chancellor, right? And that's textbook what the Jedi have become. Anakin is this kind of weird, egotistical nut job, and Ahsoka is now this person that realized she didn't understand what the Jedi were, met two really fucking annoying sisters who were well, the Jedi were supposed to be for us, and she's kind of witnessed that. Granted, that arc sucks. It fucking sucks, but it presents, and I kind of understand it now. But at the same time, it sucks.
My favorite part is Ahsoka mentions how she ran into the Mandalorians on the planet, and Obi-Wan's like, "Why were you there?" And she's like, "That's not important." And I paused it and I laughed because it's like the line just confirmed that those 4 episodes
The arc
were just
Not
completely
important.
pointless.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter anymore.
Oh, cool.
Oh my
I
god.
was just like, But just to go back to Obi-Wan, actually, what kind of solidified in my mind is that Obi-Wan and Anakin, and I feel like if you watch the prequels before the Clone Wars and everything came out, Lucas really presented it that Obi-Wan and Anakin are actually very similar. The only difference, and that's really solidified in Clone Wars, is that because they both have human feelings and everything, right? The only difference between Obi-Wan and Anakin is Obi-Wan will always, I forget the exact line he said. He said, I think it was something.
I will not allow my personal
feelings to shroud my judgment.
Yeah.
That's the difference between Anakin and Obi-Wan, because they both do have strong feelings. Anakin will allow his feelings to shroud his judgment, and Obi-Wan will not. Otherwise, they're almost identically the same, very similar characters. Especially when you think about younger Obi-Wan in Episode 1 and everything. Very similar to how Anakin was at the same age.
Yeah, he thought he was the shit.
Yeah, exactly. So I found that interesting. I found that they kind of solidified that in this episode too.
That's a great point.
Yeah, cool.
Do we think one of the bigger questions? I think is this the last time we actually see Obi-Wan and Anakin in the Clone Wars series?
No,
was that it?
No, I think they're gonna show. I think they're gonna show. Because there's still 3 episodes left. I think they'll show up and we'll potentially see some scenes in Episode 3, kind of presented in Clone Wars. Potentially some scenes you didn't see that are also taking place concurrently.
Let's talk about that real quick, because we kind of know for the most part both of their timelines from the second they say goodbye to Ahsoka,
we think,
until the end of Episode 3.
we think. I mean, there's still some time. The other
holes you could fill in.
The other thing as well, it would be kind of weird not to have something with Obi-Wan because Darth Maul wants him bad.
Well,
So whether it's like a transmission or they're like sitting in meditation and like they just have a force,
well, we do know
connect.
that arc is resolved in Rebels.
No, I understand. It's just that to wrap up Clone Wars,
Right.
Sure.
it would be a missed opportunity
I-
not to have some kind of like they're on spaceships and they're like pass and they just like look at each other like that. That's all I need.
Yeah.
I don't need
I
much.
think the bigger one, and actually it just occurred to me, the Clone Wars the Clone Wars officially start in like Star Wars lore. It starts at the Battle of Geonosia. That is the start of the Clone Wars. Geonosis. The end of the Clone Wars is official, right? When Anakin goes and butchers all of the Separatists. That marks, around that period, the end of the Clone Wars. Within that same period of him butchering everyone, he loses a bunch of limbs. Padme has the kids, and Obi-Wan Kenobi drops the kids off. You could argue that after that they could, if they want to really just like set everybody off and everyone's mind just fucking melts. They could if they want to, and I really kind of, as I say this, want them to do this. After or before Obi-Wan Kenobi drops the kids off, you could have an Ahsoka and Obi-Wan Kenobi quick chit-chat or meet or whatever. Not fight. But you could have something, right?
Why not?
Which would change Episode 3 dramatically, because once Order 66 kicks into place, Obi-Wan is on the run and meets up with Yoda, goes back to Coruscant, they do their shit, and then Yoda and Obi-Wan are on the ship, the babies are born, and then whatever. But there could definitely be, between like Obi-Wan Kenobi going to the temple and doing whatever, and then going and meeting back up with Yoda, there are spots where Obi-Wan and Ahsoka could meet up.
It might be more powerful, though, for Ahsoka to meet up with Yoda. Because Yoda is the one who sort of set the Jedi post-Order 66 on that path. Hide the kids, hide your wife,
He
like
also
basically...
fucked them over, but...
Yeah, no, of course. But, I'm like stay in hiding. So it might be more interesting. At least I think I would be more interested to see that meeting and what he tells her.
I honestly think they're setting up an Ahsoka Obi-Wan meetup in live action for the Obi-Wan series. As Rosario Dawson, as we know, has been cast as Ahsoka. We know Ian McGregor is returning as Obi-Wan.
Right.
The Rosario Dawson deal has been described as she will be appearing over multiple Star
Properties.
Wars properties. That
Oh.
would just make too much sense. And I think even they set it up a little bit in this episode that there's conflict there. And I just think that would blow more people's minds of
That's true.
instead of trying to fit it into the events of episode 3,
Yeah.
you have the
Or Clone Wars,
post episode 3, pre episode 4.
Right.
The only event that's now canon is that he kills Maul in the desert with Ezra somewhere in the sand.
Well, yeah, walking away at some point.
Yeah. So that's the only canonical thing with Obi-Wan, basically in between those events right now. It's an open canvas. Yeah, you definitely are going to have Ahsoka, I feel like, show up there.
So, oh man, just lost my train of thought. I really hate when that happens and it comes to Star Wars.
Well, is it about Ahsoka?
No, it was
Obi-Wan?
Oh, actually, it was about Darth Maul and what Obi-Wan says about Darth Maul, which I thought was pretty fucking
Oh,
funny.
that was amazing.
Don't try and kill him. Try and capture him because he comes back from the dead.
He doesn't stay dead. He doesn't like to stay dead.
Doesn't like to stay dead.
Just
Which
great.
is just like, come on now.
Wait a second. You don't think it can't be? Is he suggesting then that perhaps he doesn't kill him on Tatooine?
Oh, and no!
I mean, I'm pretty sure
I'm kidding.
because they did introduce Darth Maul obviously into the Solo movie, so they did have live action plans for Maul. And
Yeah, big time.
I'm assuming those plans are going to be invoked into the Obi-Wan series as well. So I think what is cool with this Ahsoka Darth Maul duel coming up is you might see a live action version of that potentially now in the Obi-Wan series.
That would be pretty sick. One thing that I did read on Reddit that I thought was interesting, which is a little bit separate to this, is like, obviously when this episode dropped, a lot of Star Wars fans were like, this is amazing. We've been waiting 7 years for the Siege of Mandalore. 7 years ago is when the episode where Obi-Wan runs away, or not runs away, escapes when Mandalore goes to complete another shit, right? And, somebody posted that on Reddit and was like, we waited 7 years for this. One thing that somebody said on the prequel memes subreddit was like, wow, what an amazing job Dave Filoni and team did to create a series that adds so much more interesting things to all these variety of characters and people introduced in the prequel series and make us really love, episode 2 to a degree and more so episode 3 now. It's like, wow, this is crazy. Imagine what they could do to fix episode 1. Maybe a series that follows Obi-Wan and young Obi-Wan, young Qui-Gon, young Count Dooku, young Palpatine, and how he rises to power. And I was sitting there, I was like, oh my god, whoever put this just figured out how to fix fucking episode 1.
I've been banging that drum for years. I've always thought that pre-episode 1 and between episode 1 and 2 with young Anakin, those would be excellent series.
I believe there are novels.
Are they canon?
They're
Yes.
no longer canon.
They haven't done new ones yet?
I don't think so.
Oh.
And the thing
That
with
property
those,
is
dropping the
mostly
ball.
untouched because Disney
Wants
hasn't
to
done
forget
a
it.
lot with the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, they should get on that.
well, I mean, they looked at the Clone Wars stuff, and the Clone Wars, like the Clone Wars concept works perfectly, right? It also worked with Rebels, right? We got so much more rich and interesting information between the 3 and the 4. I could imagine we'll see like a prequel to episode 1, and I can definitely see like a series, not Resistance, between episode 6 and 7, because Resistance was fucking stupid.
Well, I think you could get a powerful series between 6 and 7, specifically to
well, Mandalorian is between 6 and 7.
yeah, but I think you could get even more interesting in terms of the First Order and how they really rise and make all the cartoony stuff in 7, 8, and 9 with like, oh, it was Palpatine the whole time. You could make it way more interesting, kind of like
Yeah, you could redeem episode 8
7,
and
8,
9.
9.
By
specific-
showing
I,
that.
I
yeah.
think I think you could definitely fix episode 9 the most if you kind of gave a lot more backstory.
Which they
to
will.
It.
I mean, there's no way they won't. I mean, all
So-
this
so
stuff
much
is
rich
ca-
Star Wars.
So
Just
real
cash
quick,
cows.
like if you had to power rank the trilogies, right? Original, sequel, or excuse me, original, prequel, and sequel. That's the order in which they were released.
Yikes.
And you include all the extra canon stuff, right? So within the original sequel series, actually, there's not a whole lot that you can actually include
The sequel series.
in the original series.
That's right. And that's another thing. You could do, if we're talking about shows and stuff, there's years periods in between 4 and 5 and 5 and 6. What, 2 years between episodes?
Between
4 and
episode
5?
4 and 5 is about 2 years. Between 5 and 6 is like 5 years.
There's a lot. I mean,
There's stuff going on, so they can definitely fix that. But if you had to like power rank the trilogies and you include all the canon stuff that you're aware of, what would your power rankings be? I actually kind of just said it when I presented it. Mine would be originals, prequels because of Clone Wars, Rebels, and then
Sequel.
the sequel.
Yeah. I don't think you can really answer that question until more time has gone by and you see what they do around the new trilogy, like what kind of properties they come out with. I mean, would you include Mandalorian as like supplemental to the new trilogy, or is that part of the old trilogy?
I would say that is part of. I would do it based upon.
I would say new.
I would say original. The reason I would say original is because we're still feeling the remnants of the Empire. Once you hit like a series that really touches upon like one of the big bad guy corporations, so original is Empire, sequel is First Order.
See, I still think we're going to see the start of the rise of the First Order, or remnants of it, or the beginnings of it in Mandalorian. It's too perfect of a vehicle to show that. Whether it's a symbol or a general
I would
or
hope
whatever
because
it
like
is.
it's 20 years.
Yeah, it's
right?
enough time.
There's like 20, 25 years between episode 6 and 7. So you could actually do like a Mandalorian. I mean, he may be old, and maybe you do it like the Viking series, right? Where it's like in generational. Like you could do it where like he has a kid. We speed across a couple years, right? And the kid is like, he's like a youngster, whatever you decide to do, right? Or maybe he already has a kid out there in the universe. You don't know.
Yeah.
But like stuff like that, I think would be like super, super interesting.
Yeah.
Folks, before we jump into, The Last Dance, Michael Jordan's documentary, Krishna, you should ask Arjuna if the Clone Wars episode was good.
Ravi, was Star Wars The Clone Wars episode that we just watched good?
Fuck yes. It's way better than that stupid ass shit with the sisters.
I wish they'd done like the Ventress arc instead or something.
Oh
my God,
That would have
why?
been so much better.
Why the fuck didn't we do that?
Well, you're not on the creative board.
Oh.
Why did we do that? I take responsibility.
That's like when like sports fans they're like, oh, we just didn't do well today. You're on the team.
Why couldn't we convert that fourth down?
I'm on the Star Wars team, I think.
Yeah.
Send me the royalty checks to don't take my address.
Ravi, do you need to ask someone a question?
Oh, right. Arjuna was Clone Wars season 7 episode something good.
Yes, and it was the best episode of Clone Wars. And it was funny because I remember when Ravi and I, years ago, I think this was like the summer of 08 or 07, I think, we saw the original Clone Wars movie when it came out. And we were like, God, this is shit. Because it is. If you go back and watch that movie, it's still it's worse than the sisters arc we just
Doesn't it look like a Windows 95 screensaver?
It's animated poorly.
Yeah.
It's literally the most uninteresting story. And how they introduce Ahsoka, at that time, if you ask me, is Ahsoka Tano going to become one of the most popular Star Wars characters to ever
Most
exist?
important too, yeah.
I would say, get the fuck out of here. She is the most annoying character. To go back to last week when you said who's the most annoying characters, 07 Ahsoka Tano would have topped that list. More annoying than Jar Jar at that point.
Oh God, yes.
Jar Jar is not annoying.
So it's to me it's fascinating that in 13 years of this show being on and off and everything, that like we have gotten to the point where you are seeing you saw the very worst of Star Wars, and you're at the very, I would say this is some of the best Star Wars I've ever seen.
Agreed.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
He is an NBA player, most notably known for winning six championships with the Chicago Bulls. Chicago, known for the deep dish pizza. I kind of want deep dish pizza now.
Yeah, I know, Aaron. You want to spend $120?
I really want a pizza now. God, I hate pizza.
We had pizza yesterday.
It was terrible. Anyway, The Last Dance, the ESPN docu-series known as 30 for 30, premiered this past Sunday, episodes 1 and 2.
With Netflix. It was a co-production with Netflix.
Yeah.
Co-production
which
with
did not know that.
Netflix. Did not know that till just now, actually. So thank you,
It
Arjuna.
was right in the opening thing. Yeah.
What opening thing?
In
Like
the
the
opening
credits.
Oh, in the
It's
credits?
It's like a ESPN and Netflix production.
Interesting. So that means there'll be some kind of distribution on Netflix?
I assume the distribution is as soon as the final episode goes live, it's going to be on. It's going to live on Netflix. I would imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, this sounds like something that they may have bundled in prior to their platforms. Anyway, off topic here. The documentary finally premiered. We are living in a time where there are no longer live sports currently. There is no foreseeable future where live sports exist. So the sports community was very, 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 very amped up for this. I would say it went beyond the sports community, where we had regular Joe Schmoes who don't know a whole lot about the Chicago Bulls or the NBA. We're very interested to see what all the fuss was about.
Mhm.
And, we got to see it, and I'll just say this. Sorry, Pippin.
Sorry, Pip. Oh man,
Good
it
old
was.
Scott.
It was.
No,
He lost!
No. Honestly, if the first 2 episodes are any indication, this documentary is going to show a whole new generation just how incredible Scottie Pippen was and how underappreciated he was, which is fascinating. And I think it's great. Like, Scottie Pippen was always. There's a line in the first episode where it's like, Scottie Pippen is probably the greatest number 2 ever in the history of basketball, and that's true. And he probably could, have been. He still would have been a Hall of Famer without Michael Jordan, but he played his role perfectly. And unfortunately, when you're the number 2 to the greatest, there's a long shadow cast, and I think it's fascinating to watch that.
To your point, though, Scottie Pippen was great. But let's be honest, The Last Dance is all about the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan. More importantly than introducing a whole new generation to the greatest player to play next to the greatest player, is to all the 13-year-olds who go on NBA Twitter and talk about how LeBron James is the GOAT.
LeBron James.
Michael Jordan commissioned this documentary, or allowed it to be created, during the 2016 Cavaliers parade. That is the parade where LeBron James and his team overcame a 3-1 deficit to the Golden State Warriors. Michael Jordan was sitting at home probably and was like, oh, hell no. They're going to start calling him the GOAT because he just won his 3rd championship and came back against a 73-9 Warriors team, which is, don't get me wrong, one of the greatest, a great all-time sports feat, okay? Michael Jordan was like, hell no, commissioned this, and I think it's clear that the point behind this is to show the young people, this is the GOAT, okay? Mm-hmm. This is the GOAT, and this is what basketball was like back then. This is how he changed the game, okay? So it is.
This is where I want to kind of debate this documentary series and all docu-series in the last 5 years or so, specifically around Netflix, actually, because I think Netflix documentary series, for the most part, are very interesting, where they present an idea, but what the internet does is they take something completely different from it and hyper-focus
For sure.
on that one thing. And I think it's interesting, if we talk the Michael Jordan documentary, I almost said B. Damn, I'm good. Like Christian said, that the documentary is supposed to be about, or is about, primarily Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. The internet, though, really hyper-focused on Pippen. During last night and into this morning a little bit, I saw all these crazy stats, all this information.
How much money he made.
All this stuff. It was a lot of information.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see next week, who's going to be the new character that isn't Michael Jordan?
Dennis Rodman.
Potentially.
I think
I
he
do
could be,
want to clear up something. The documentary isn't called Michael Jordan. It is called The Last Dance. And The Last Dance is in reference, and this is how they've started the documentary, and this is the kind of the focus of it. It is about that 96-97 Chicago Bull NBA champion team that won the championship, but knew from the very beginning that it was, quote-unquote, their last dance, because all of these different pieces were not going to be coming back next year. Phil Jackson only agreed to a 1-year deal and was told by the GM that he's not coming back. Jordan, we know that was Jordan's last year. There's a lot of players that they wanted to move on from, including Pippen and Dennis Rodman. And in fact, they start the documentary by saying, with Michael Jordan going, I'm Michael Jordan, blah, 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 blah. I'm Scottie Pippen, blah, 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 blah. I'm Dennis Rodman, blah, 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 blah. I'm Phil Jackson, blah, 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 blah. So they presented the documentary. Yes, Michael Jordan's first because he's clearly the biggest and most important name. But it's about all of. I think it really is going to be about all of that, the whole team.
That's interesting though, because like the marketing and everything on it was done where it's like this is the Michael Jordan documentary.
It is. So it is because the like I said, Scottie Pippen is a fantastic,
component.
Is a fantastic player, right? There's an infamous.
He's a great guy.
There's a Stephen A. Smith Skip Bayless debate from 15 years ago, where Skip Bayless said that Scottie Pippen wasn't a top 50 NBA player of all time.
Who said Skip Bayless said that he was not a top 50, and then Stephen A. goes off.
He's like, you just got caught, Skip, right?
Skip
because he is like Scottie Pippen is one of the best NBA players to ever play. Dennis Rodman is one of the most weird personalities and was a great basketball player. Phil Jackson is arguably the best NBA head coach of all time. Steve Kerr was a great point guard and was the coach of that 73 win team, Warriors team. So there's a ton of interesting people around it, but everyone in comparison still compares to Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
If you did a documentary about Michael Jordan and Tom Brady, it would be called the Michael Jordan documentary.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that in like current times. Like you want to get your audience.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the Tom
he plays
Brady
for Tampa
name,
Bay. It's a third-rate market team.
does it count in Corona world?
What?
Anything that happens right now? The draft this week, does that count? Really?
Well, we have to see.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of GMs and teams wouldn't want it to count.
Oh, well, I hope they do. I mean, Jesus, enough work is going into it.
Anyway, first 2 episodes came out. You two, more than me, are Celtics fans.
Yeah.
What were like the interesting things? Like when you were watching the documentary, were you looking for your home team, or were you more focused on like I want to see about the Jordan, the Last Dance, the team?
Yeah, I mean, you're watching it for Jordan,
Right.
Like that's like you said, that's how it was presented. There in episode 2, there are obviously a lot of interesting Celtics connections that go into the playoff series that the Bulls had versus the Celtics. The very interesting story of Jordan and Danny Ainge golfing between games 1 and 2. Danny Ainge kind of fleecing Jordan in the game in the golf game, and then Jordan dropping 63.
Yeah, I think
63 versus Celtics in a losing effort.
Yeah.
But because that that Celtics team that the Bulls ran into, first off, Jordan is still very young, but that some people argue is the greatest basketball team ever assembled. From
Celtics team?
That's that 86
I think
Celtics
it had
team, yeah.
4
Hall of Famers on it. Yep.
Damn.
In their primes.
Oh, no, they were past their primes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're still very good.
Bird,
right?
Parrish, and McHale were all past their primes, yeah.
But
no, obviously they were still great.
still a very good team. So.
Yeah.
No, but so I think as a Celtics fan, it's cool to like hear those stories and see those anecdotes and see kind of like Danny Ainge is obviously the G is was a big Celtics player. He was a great bench player, and then also he's the current GM of the Celtics. So it's just kind of fascinating to see. It's fascinating to see a current day player, or executive in the past and kind of how they interacted with certain figures.
I will say this, looking on Twitter, and I would agree with the sentiment, a lot of Celtics Twitter is really into this documentary because obviously anyone who's a basketball fan, maybe a little bit older, they recognize that Michael Jordan's a GOAT. Those Bulls teams are some of the best of all time. But it's also really cool, though, especially if like people my age, where Bird, McHale, Parrish, that's before our time. We didn't get to grow up watching those guys. Right. So it's really nice to be able to experience some of the Celtics lore, the Celtics legend, through the eyes of this Bulls story. Yeah, sure, the Celtics are only going to be it probably,
probably that 1 episode.
The 1 episode, yeah. I'm sure they'll bring them back maybe for if they talk about the Dream Team where that Bird was also on. But it's nice. It's nice to be able to get that Celtics connection, even if it's just for a little bit. But definitely, like Arjuna said, you're coming in to see, one of the greatest athletes to ever play any sport ever. That's the draw. That's the gravity.
So it being episodes 1 and 2, Krishna, was it good?
So full disclosure, I've only seen episode 1 so far. I'm going to watch episode 2 tomorrow. But episode 1 was, yes, it was incredible. Loved it. Juna was episode.
Real quick though, like at the start of a documentary series, like where would you like power rank this?
Ooh.
The Goat of Goat documentary series is that Fat 32 or 30 Day, Super Size Me.
Super Size Me was okay.
I would say no. I would say it's like the top of the notch because that did like a big fundamental change.
For
Like,
sure.
that's caused
Yeah.
a fucking gigantic like
Loss of lawsuits.
industry like shift. So
Yeah.
that's
What
why I call it
about-
the Goat of
What
Goat.
about the whale one?
The whale one was all right, but it wasn't
I
as
never saw
big.
the
It
whale
wasn't
one.
as big as like the
I
Super
don't know. That
Size
was
Me.
pretty big.
You got to mention Tiger King, of course.
Tiger King is another. I mean, that's a current big interesting one.
It's the
But
current
like
big one.
Tiger King, I would rank in the same realm or spaces like what's the murder one?
Making a murder.
Making a
for
Murder,
sure.
which was like a big cultural like
Yeah,
shift.
for sure.
Where would you like put this within like these extreme documentaries? that
I'd have to
done?
see the whole thing.
Gotcha.
To be honest, I don't think I can make that determination right now. It's really good start, strong start. But yeah, I can't tell for sure. But Juno was episode 1 of this, The Last Dance. Good.
I would say yes. It for sure was. It was very well edited, very well paced. A lot of good information. A lot of good, like they definitely emptied the bank in terms of getting the rights to a lot of great footage, a lot of great stuff. They even mentioned like Jordan and the Bulls granted unprecedented access during that season. I am not aware of that footage ever being used before. There might be a documentary or some type of special that came out,
I don't think so.
but I don't know. So the fact that they were able to get those 23 years later is really incredible.
I believe, and it's been presented at least online, that Jordan has been sitting on that footage. Like he commissioned the documentary crew to follow him, and then decided to do nothing with it.
For
Like,
23
he's just been biding his time. He's just waiting. He's like, the next goat, quote unquote, goat usurper that comes along, I'm gonna drop this, and that's Jordan. That is vintage Jordan, the greatest trash talker ever, the greatest competitor ever, and he ripped people's hearts out. That's what he does. So, is it really that shocking that during White Ren LeBron's in that discussion for GOAT, he's like, okay, let's do it, let's do this.
It's interesting. Like the ego of
Oh
a
my
human
God.
being is insane.
Yeah,
Because like I remember
that's what
like,
it takes though.
my first like exposure, like spoiler alert for those watching, like we did not grow up in the United States, so we did not grow up watching the NBA or
Right.
the NFL. My first memory of somebody named Michael Jordan was fucking Space Jam.
Yep.
Right, right, where like that was the connect Bugs fucking Bunny
Yeah.
and basketball. That's how I
Bugs Bunny was the
connect
star.
the two.
Bugs Bunny was the star,
And
Michael
like,
Jordan was a
and obviously, that was a children's movie. So like, Michael
Yes,
Jordan to me,
the children's movie.
Michael Jordan to me was, a cool dude, a really nice guy. And it's like you're seeing this documentary, you're like, that's not a nice guy. He's a really big dick.
Yeah, but which is that part is actually pretty well known though, like that he is.
Once
he's
you
a
like
big
get
thing,
into it, and
yeah.
especially if you live during the time period, then yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm just talking through the eyes of a 6-year-old.
The eyes of a ranger.
Yeah, whenever Space Jam
5-year-old,
came
yeah.
out. But it's interesting, talking about the GOAT thing. Like LeBron James is going to be in Space Jam too.
Mhm.
So it is fascinating that, and that's been the talk for years, right? If LeBron is the GOAT, and then Jordan releases this doc, and then especially this NBA season, all signs seem to point that the Lakers and LeBron were, heading towards heading toward a championship. He'd win a championship. That'd be his 4th championship with a 3rd different team.
I mean, there were some obstacles, but you're right.
For sure.
You're right.
But
there's a chance to get
so,
one.
but what's interesting, right? Like we're in April right now, right?
Yeah.
This documentary is supposed to drop in the summer. So if Jordan and his team is projecting, like, all right, let's say LeBron wins that 4th. Let's say LeBron wins that 4th championship
Yeah.
with the Lakers, right?
Let's tee up this doc.
Now people are going to be like, oh, he's won 3 different franchises, 4 different times. He's on a super team. Everyone's going to be like, is he going to get to 6 to pass Jordan or tie with Jordan? And then boom, they were going to drop it because it was supposed to come out July and they moved it up
Yeah.
2 months.
Smart.
So that I just wonder if there was
Oh,
some
absolutely.
talks there of like, well,
If I know Jordan, and I don't, but I do. Yeah, that's exactly what he was planning.
Yeah.
Oh man.
You know Michael Jordan?
I do.
Wow.
I don't. Are you gonna ask Ravi?
Ravi, was The Last Dance good?
Yes.
How much did you watch?
I watched enough to know that this
It
is
was-
a very beautifully well done docu-series that the Smithsonian should have. The Smithsonian, damn it!
Oh my
Anyway, Arjun, you have some breaking news that you wanted to drop on us?
I did. So
What?
it's about the movie industry, and it's about the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
They're canceling it.
Man.
Doctor Strange lost their director a few months ago, Scott Derrickson. Right?
Okay.
Wait, wasn't it somebody else?
Scott Derrickson, I believe, was the director
Was he the one from 1 and 2?
for the first one. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he was going to do the second one, and he dropped out.
Right.
So they had been looking for a director.
Wait, can I guess?
Sure, go ahead.
Christopher Nolan.
Do you want to
No, I
guess?
have no idea.
All right. So the director, and he confirmed it in a tweet, I believe a week ago, of Doctor Strange, is no stranger to comic book movies. In fact,
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi
That's right.
coming
Yes.
in
I remember
to
seeing
direct
this.
a Marvel Cinematic Universe. Some would call him the Godfather of comic book movies, right?
Spider-Man 1 and 2
because
and 3.
What about Michael Keaton's Batman?
no, the directors.
Yeah, no. What about that director, Tim Burton?
but I would say for a long time those Spider-Man movies were
Yeah.
were some of
The
the
modern-
best.
the modern.
But they were some of the best comic book movies. Obviously, the Dark Knight trilogy came along, and then
After, yeah.
the Marvel
Iron
Cinematic
Man.
Universe. But like nothing could touch those Spider-Man.
Right, because
movies
the
for a
big
long
thing
time.
like with those Spider-Man films, when you compare that to like the Dark Knight trilogy, is the Dark Knight trilogy is very like closed, right? It's very like it's about Batman. That's it. No other room. No other room. While like the Spider-Man movie was kind of set up in such a way where it's like we could kind of expand upon if we want to.
It was a true comic book movie. It felt like a comic book, right? Like it was even colored like a comic book in terms of the bright and vibrant colors. And so it is. I think it's fascinating that Raimi is returning after so many years and is joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe with maybe the most uninteresting cinematic Marvel character, right? Doctor Strange, who had
He needs to
difficulty
he needs a
in lot of
makeover.
stuff.
Like they need to like really hardcore dive into like the Doctor Strange comic books because that shit, like depending on which like series or arc you want to read, like that shit's fucking weird and creepy. That's scary as fuck. Like if you smoke a lot, like that's the weird hallucinogenic shit that you would see.
I believe that new Doctor Strange movie is supposed to be that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't he like get locked in?
All
another
right,
dimension?
like we've seen some like the Marvel Civil War, for example, was supposed to be like superhero on superhero violence. It's gonna be great, and then it was like they just cried and hit each other.
I know.
Cool.
Well, I would say Doctor Strange is kind of like what Civil War and like some of the the first two Avenger movies, where it's like the build-up event, like the cinematic universe will be is supposed to be changed by this movie.
Right.
It's kind of like the big team-up movie because we know there's a lot of other heroes coming in. So it is, to me, it's interesting they're getting someone like Sam Raimi to come in and do an important movie like that. And also, to piggyback off of this, the rumor is Benedict Cumberbatch only signed on for 5 Marvel movies.
He's already done
He's already done
4.
4.
Yeah.
He's already appeared in 4 movies.
His
Infinity
Doctor
War.
Strange, Thor,
Thor Ragnarok, the cameo.
Endgame,
Endgame, Infinity War.
4, and then
And
second.
then, so this could be his last movie as Doctor Strange.
Good.
Yeah, it's like the best Marvel movie ever.
might be.
While I have faith that they will
Sam
make the new Doctor Strange fucking weird, is because like, what was it like? Infinity War. We saw actual characters die and not like blow up in the wrong ship because of the Jedi Knight. Oh, what? Episode 9, Chewbacca. Sorry. Well, we actually see characters die. We actually see like Thor or Thanos lose his fucking head in like Endgame. It's like, okay, I see what you're doing there. You're becoming an adult thing. It's scary, but it's okay. So, I mean, I'm excited for
You're
that.
hopeful.
I'm a hopeful,
Yeah.
especially in this world.
I don't.
You sound not hopeful about Sam Raimi directing Doctor Strange.
I'm curious, right? I haven't. I don't think I've seen any Sam Raimi movies besides
Is it
Spider-Man 1, 2, or 3.
Is it because of the emo scene in episode 3? Are you still shook to your core?
I love that scene. It has spawned. It spawned a whole generation. That movie started a whole generation of butthurt comic book movie fans.
It's true.
That movie started the whole thing, like in
It's true.
terms of
It's
bashing comic book
Yep.
movies. So
Could
you
you
know
see-
what? That movie is a legend. in its own right.
Well, so there's Raimi's only directed 2 movies since Spider-Man 3: Drag Me to Hell and Oz the Great and Powerful.
I mean, Sam Raimi's well known for like his big stuff, and why I'm like excited for the Doctor Strange stuff. His big stuff is The Evil Dead.
Yes, correct.
And like The Evil Dead is fucking batshit nuts in terms of like a horror zombie weird fucking movie.
Interesting.
And like the spirits and shit. So that's why it's like, if you're gonna give him a Marvel property,
that they want horror elements in.
yeah, Doctor Strange makes the most
So
sense.
the Spider-Man movies
Were
are
his,
outliers
for him.
because he's more known as a horror director. In fact, the last 3 movies he's produced are The Grudge, Crawl, Don't Breathe. Before that, Poltergeist. Before that, Murder of a Cat. Like all horror movies. So and especially because they're describing this as potentially the MCU's first horror movie.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi makes a lot of sense, especially because he has the experience. That's actually why people were so disappointed by Spider-Man 3, because they were introducing Venom and they're like, "Oh my god, Sam Raimi's a horror director.
Yeah.
This should be
It should have
perfect."
been amazing.
Do you think he went and saw Venom with what's his face? The
Rob
new
Zombie?
Venom? Tom Hardy?
Maybe.
And no, he went and he saw it and he's like, yeah, that shit's hard to make scary.
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't fuck it up.
Well, they've talked about the reason Spider-Man 3 failed so spectacularly is because Sony forced them into being like, we got to film by this time, and they didn't have a script, and then they were like, we want also the Sandman in this and this and that.
Electro?
You know, for toys.
Was Electro in it?
No, it was Sandman, Venom, and New Goblin.
You're thinking Ultimate Spider-Man with what's his face?
Jamie Foxx and Andrew Garfield.
I never saw that one.
Really?
You
You
watched-
saved
That's a lot of Marvel
you
movies
saved
that I-
yourself from seeing
Yeah.
a neck snap, which was just painful to watch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty.
Oh,
that
next
was
snap.
bad.
Interesting.
Guys, I think we're gonna wrap it here. Another Was It Good in the Books, episode 77. You can find us on Twitter at Was It Good, on the Instagram at Was It Good BTM, on twitch.tv/Was It Good. The podcast is live streamed every Monday night, and the podcast is released every Tuesday, unless one of us is sick. And if we're sick, then
Uh-oh.
The show goes on. We're still in it.
Yeah, we just like go, hey, Christian, and then this silence. We just play crickets.
Oh,
Christian, what did you think of Westworld?
Great.
Thank you, and goodbye.